So make sure you do these 4 examples just as a warm-up activity. We're going to move on to the notes for today, which is solving systems by substitution. Remember the word substitutions, that means that we are going to solve systems by substituting one equation into the other. Okay, so here we have some steps to follow. Number 1 says look for an equation that is solved for x or y. Sometimes this is already done for us, and sometimes it's not. Okay, so let's start with number 1. Let's look at example number 1. Okay, so we're going to look at step number 1, which means y solved for, and it is in both equations, so step number 1 is completed. All right, so here is where we substitute. This means y equals x minus 9. So we're going to substitute all of that in for y in the second equation. So we get x minus 9 equals 4x minus 24. We substituted all of this in for y because they are equivalent because of the equation. Okay, and then we solve for x. So we're going to subtract x. We get negative 9 equals 3x minus 24. Add 24, which gives us 3x equals, let's see, 15. And then divide by 3. So x equals 5. Now, we take this. So now we have substituted in. We solved because we had one variable. Now we have to substitute this back in to one of our original equations. Okay, I'm going to pick the top one because it's easier. So we have y equals x minus 9. So now we have an x. So we're going to substitute 5 in for x. We have 5 minus 9 equals y. So y equals negative 4. So my ordered pair for step number 5 is x, which is 5, y, which is negative 4. Now, you can always plug these back in to make sure that they work for both equations. All right, so let's go to example number 2, following our steps. Okay, first step is see if either one is solved for y. They both are. So you can choose whichever one you want to. I'm just going to use the top one. Okay, so it's negative x plus 14. We're going to plug it in for this y. So negative x plus 14 equals negative 5x plus 11. Okay, now we solve for x. We can go either way you want to. I'm going to box this in and move it over because I want to deal with positive numbers. So we get 14 equals negative 5x plus 8x is 3x plus 11. Subtract 11, we get 3 equals 3x. So x equals 1. All right, now I'll go back to one of the original equations. Let's choose the bottom one this time. So we get y equals negative 5. And then instead of x, we're going to plug in this 1 times 1 plus 11. So negative 5 times 1 is negative 5 plus 11. So negative 5 plus 11 is 6. So y equals 6. So my ordered pair for my answer, remember, is x, y. So it is 1, 6. Now remember, you can always go and plug it back in to make sure it works for both equations. All right, so let's look at an example that's not quite so easy. Okay, so let's look at number 3. Notice y is solved for in the bottom equation, but it is not in the top equation. Okay, so we're going to use this and plug it in for y in the first equation. So we get negative 5x plus 4 parentheses all of y, negative 2x minus 8 equals 7. Okay, and the first thing we have to do is to distribute. So leave this over here by itself. Leave it alone for now. So we get 4 times negative 2x, which is negative 8x. We get 4 times negative 8, which is negative 32, equals 7. Combine like terms. Remember, this is like keep, change, change. So negative 5x plus negative 8x is negative 13x minus 32 equals 7. So we're going to add 32 to both sides. We get negative 13x equals 39. Divide by negative 13. So x equals positive negative makes that negative 3. Okay. Now we have one of our answers. Now we're going to plug it back into one of our original equations here. You can choose whichever one you want to. I'm going to choose the bottom one because it's easier. Okay. So we have y equals, now remember this is x, so wherever you see an x, you're plugging in negative 3. So you have negative 2 times negative 3, then minus 8. So negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6 minus 8, which is keep, change, change if you need to do it that way. So y equals negative 2. So my order pair is negative 3, negative 2. Okay. We're going to do one more that's quite more complicated like this, and I'm going to let you work on your own. Okay, let's go down to, if I can get my thing to erase. Let's do number 6. So you're going to do 4 and 5 on your own. Okay, number 6. The second one is solved for. So we're going to plug this in for y here. Okay, so we have 7x minus, don't forget the minus, open parentheses, 4x minus 11, close parentheses, equals 23. You have to distribute this negative into both terms. So you get 7x negative, remember that's kind of like a negative 1. Negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x. Negative 1 times negative 11 is positive 11 equals 23. 7x minus 4x is 3x plus 11 equals 23. So we're going to subtract 11. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to move up here. So we have 3x equals 23 minus 11 is 12. Okay, divide by 3, so x equals 4. Okay, so that's one answer. Now, go back to an original equation and plug it in. So let's plug it in for the bottom one. So we get y equals 4. Take out the x, put in the 4 because we're substituting. That's the, gives it its name. All right, so 4 times 4 is 16 minus 11. So y equals 5. So my point is 4, 5. Okay? All right, now I want you to pause your video and you are going to complete number 4, number 5, and we did number 6. And then you're going to do the next page, which is 7, 8, and 9. And then you can continue the video and I will give you the answers for you to check yourself. So pause the video now. Okay, so hopefully you've done some questions on your own. Let me give you the answers for 4. So number 4 should have been negative 7, 5. Number 5 should have been 1, negative 4. 6 we did together. 7 should be negative 3, 4. Number 8 should be, when you solve this one, you should have gotten a false statement. You should have gotten negative 4 does not equal 1 or something to that effect. So that makes that a no solution. And number 9, when you solve it, you get 16 equals 16, which is a true statement. Remember, when it's a true statement, it means that it is an infinitely many solution. Infinitely many. Okay, so that is the first round of solving systems of equations by substitution. All right, So on your next note sheet, this is a separate note sheet. So let's look at, you have some warm up again, which is just solving equations. Okay, but the difference in this one is that these do not have one that is solved for x or y. So these are a little bit more complicated. All right, so when we have to solve for one, we look at both equations and see which one is easier to solve for x or y. Okay, so you'll notice in this first equation, y is already by itself, so that's going to be a lot easier. So all we need to do is we need to move this over to the other side. So we add 3x. I'm going to erase this in a second. So when we add 3x, we get y equals 3x plus 8. Okay, so this equation and this equation are the exact same thing. We have just moved things over. Okay, so now that is our first step when one is not isolated. Okay, so you isolate the variable first. Okay, now we can plug all of this in just like we did before in for y. Okay, so we get 8x minus 3 times 3x plus 8 equals negative 19. Now we have to distribute this in. Remember, this is a negative 3 that goes together. So 8x stays there. Negative 3 times 3x is negative 9x. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24 equals negative 19. So we have 8x minus 9x gives us negative 1x minus 24 equals negative 19. Add 24, add 24. So get negative x or negative 1x. Remember, that's the same thing. Negative 19 plus 24 is 5. Then we have to divide by negative 1 because it can't leave us with a negative x. So x equals negative 5. Okay? Now we're going to take this and we're going to plug it back into an original equation. Okay? So let's just use the top one again. So we have negative 3. Take out x, put in negative 5 plus y equals 8. So negative 3 times negative 5 is 15 equals 8. So minus 15 minus 15. So y equals negative 7. So our answer is negative 5, negative 7. Again. All right, so we're going to do one more example together. So let's look at number 3. Okay, we're going to go pretty fast here. Okay, so we're going to use the second equation because y is easily by itself. Okay, so we're going to subtract 5x, subtract 5x. We get negative y equals negative 5x plus 6. Now we have to divide everything by negative 1 to get y equals 5x minus 6. Now we're going to take that and we're going to plug it into the other equation for y. Okay, so we got 2x plus 4 times 5x minus 6 equals negative 2. Okay, so we get 2x plus 4 times 5x is 20x. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24 equals negative 2. Combine like terms, we get 22x. I'm going to go ahead and skip a step here and add 24, which gives us 22. So x equals 1. Now take it back into an original equation. Okay, so let's use the second one. 5 times 1 minus y equals 6. So 5 times 1 is 5. So we're going to go ahead and subtract 5. So get negative y equals 1. So divide by negative 1. Divide by negative 1. Y equals negative 1. So our point is 1, negative 1. So that is solving system.